Sounds like it's about to be a joke, but it's not. St. Nicholas and the Three Young Women. You heard the story? Yeah, you have. There, of course you've heard it. You've heard it all the time. St. Nicholas and the Three Young Women. The story goes like this. There's a story about three young women, and they're impoverished father. You know this story? No. They're impoverished. It's great. It's going to be a great story. I'll make sure I do it well tonight. Story of three young women, and their impoverished father. That meant they didn't have dowries, right? We may not know what a dowry is, right? What is a dowry? Anybody know what a dowry is?
Bride gift.
What's this? Something says a bride. Yeah, that's right. In an earlier time, in earlier worlds, a dower would be money that was set aside, or riches, or things of value that would then be shared with the husband or the family of the husband in exchange for marrying your daughter. So if you had a large dowry, it meant that chances are you get good offers in marriage. If you had a minuscule dowry, you were in trouble. And if you had no dowry at all, it wasn't good for you. If you had no dowry at all, it meant that probably you would go into a trade or into some sort of activity in which the chances of your being abused or hurt or taken advantage of were significant. Everyone knew what it meant not to have a dowry. Well, anyway, as the story goes, St. Nicholas is passing through town one day, and he hears the daughters of this impoverished gentleman bemoaning the fact that they don't have dowries and they'll never be married. They won't have a family. They're probably going to end up with the pirates, and not the ones at Gasparilla. They're probably going to end up in worlds that they don't want to be part of. So St. Nicholas of Myra has a lot of money. He's wealthy. So he takes the resources that he has, and then mysteriously, as he passes by their house, he takes gold that he has and tosses it into the window of the home. Now, in those days, folks did not have as many pairs of socks as we have today, and folks would take their one pair of socks and do what with them? They'd put them up next to the window to dry. Just as in other cultures, we might put them above the fireplace to dry out so we could wear them again the next day. Well, St. Nicholas of Myra is going through with all that gold, and he throws it in the window. Lo and behold, where does it end up?
In the stockings.
In the socks, in the stockings. And the first young lady gets up, the first daughter of the impoverished man gets up and goes, "Hey, look what I found in my stocking. There's enough here for a wonderful dowry." And then he does it the second day, and he leaves it in there. And then he does it the third day, and he leaves it in there. That's the root of a ritual tradition that I think many of you are probably familiar with, and that's the idea of putting a stocking up somewhere in your house. Now, it's not the actual socks that you wear. We ritualize it. We turn it into something that can be manufactured in great quantities in the People's Republic of China. We call that the Christmas stocking, and we put it up there. And lo and behold, St. Nicholas still recognizes it and comes by and leaves a new cell phone in it. Or some other Panasonic device. Or he leaves one of those cell phones in it that's going to explode because the battery is not. St. Nicholas would never do that. If you got the exploding battery, you'd been the bad kid. Right. But the root of it is this story, this ancient story about these young women. And he saves them. He literally saves them from a life of despair and oppression. He'd have none of it. So he takes care of the personal fun. Another story, and this last one, I could get this. There's so many. It's like the stories of Ramakrishna. You ever hear those stories of Ramakrishna? You ever hear like the stories? You ever hear the story of Ramakrishna and the ant? You ever hear the story of Ramakrishna and the enormous vineyard? You remember that story, right? It's a great story, but another day. It's another religion, another story altogether. Ramakrishna and the enormous vineyard. The story of St. Nicholas and the incredible stew. Another story, St. Nicholas confronts a wicked innkeeper who had, during a time of famine, kidnapped 3 young boys. By the way, why are there always 3s in this story? Why are the Christians trying to get you to remember 3s? Why are they working off these 3s all the time? The Trinity, exactly right. It's the concept. Reinforcing. That's what religions do. They're reinforcing these teachings. Anyway, 3 young men, boys, who during a time of famine had been kidnapped by an evil innkeeper. And what did the innkeeper do? The innkeeper was famous for his cuisine. He was famous for the stews that he would make. Well, in this particular case, the stews were made with the 3 boys. The 3 boys. He cut up the boys and put them in the stew in this time of famine so people could eat. Now, St. Nicholas shows up at the inn, you know, and he says, "Listen, I'll have some of the stew tonight." I know. He shows up. And of all the people there, though, who's the one that recognized there's something wrong with the stew? St. Nicholas. And so what does he do? He does the sign of the cross over the stew, and lo and behold, who comes out of the stew? The boys. All back together again. I'm feeling great. Knowing what was going on before the first bite, Nicholas condemned the man and then strolled over to the kettle, made the sign of the cross, and restored the 3 young boys to life. And so on we could go. In his travels, he calmed the storm. It was a terrible story, wasn't it? It was like, God, that was scary to me too, just thinking about it again. In his travels, he calmed storms. He saved sailors in distress. He rescued falsely accused prisoners of the state. He reunited families separated by war and sold into slavery. Today he's venerated as the patron saint of young unmarried women, just like the girls in the story, seafarers and their cargo, various seaport communities. As a matter of fact, there's a seaport community within driving distance of this campus right here that has a beautiful cathedral right smack dab in the middle of the town that's dedicated to this guy, St. Nicholas. What's the community, class? Tarpon Springs. Tarpon Springs. If you go over to Tarpon Springs, you'll find a gigantic, beautiful Orthodox cathedral called St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas's cathedral is right there. The Cathedral of St. Nicholas is right there. That was not uncommon in the ancient world. He was, in his day, the most popular saint of all the saints in Catholicism, all the saints in Christianity. Coastal communities, pawnbrokers. He was the patron saint of pawnbrokers, travelers, children, of course, and in some unofficial lists, prostitutes and thieves. Notice that the people that he is interested in, at all cases, are people that are in transition. They're people that are in movement. Pawnbrokers, traders, sailors, prostitutes, people that are constantly in motion, people that are constantly moving. This St. Nicholas is the one that looks after them, and for good reason. He was venerated. He is, in a way, in his own unique and special way, a God that is not unlike those nature deities who are all about energy and movement and fertility, although the fertility aspect is missing explicitly.